Okay, we are live. We'll just wait another minute or so before we get started. Okay, let's begin. So hello and welcome everybody to this live walkthrough of Elementor 3.11. My name is Ash and I am the Global Content Community Manager here at Elementor, as well as an educator. So today we are going to do a live walkthrough of the most recent release, which is 3.11. Where we're going to take you through some of the key features in that release. My colleague Celine is in the comments section, so do feel free to just say hi, okay? Or if even better, throw in a question about this release, any of the features. Let's try and keep it on topic if we can. And yeah, we'll go from there. And Celine's going to feed through some questions to me if they're suitable to answer live to you guys. I really hope that a few come in because it would be great to do some demonstrations for you all. But without further ado, let's get started. So just bear with me while I organize my screens. And then let's go through what we're going to do today. Okay, so several exciting new features in the 3.11 release. The first of which is the new copy and paste between websites. Okay, so not just internally on one website, we can now copy and paste containers, widgets, okay, entire pages from one website on one domain to a website on a different domain. So very exciting to see this added to the tools, to our tool set, I should say. Obviously, we still have the ability to export and import templates, but this could be, a more efficient way for you to just grab maybe a couple of elements from one website and use them on another. So we'll take a look at that shortly. Next, we'll then take a look at the new loop carousel. So hopefully by now you've had a chance to check out the new loop builder. Okay, this is the next step. With that, it all works in a relatively similar way, only this time we have the ability to turn the loop grid into a carousel, which is very exciting. And we'll actually go through two examples today of that. And in the second example, I will also showcase the new option to select a background image size, which is going to be extremely valuable for anybody that wants to improve the loading speeds of their websites. We'll take a look at that as well. And then finally, we'll take a look at the new advanced pop-up rule, which allows us to set a schedule for our pop-up. So we can say we'd like it to go live on this date and time and then turn off on this date and time. So lots of flexibility there. Great to see lots of you in the chat there. So hello to everybody. Okay, so first of all, we're going to take a look at the new copy and paste between websites feature. And I just want to quickly show you my setup before we get started. So I have two websites here. The first one is just installed locally. We can see the domain name at the top here, live walkthrough site 1. And then I also have a second website, which is hosted on the Elementor hosting. Okay, and as you can see, the domain name is different at the top here. The second website, the one hosted on the Elementor hosting, is just a blank website. I haven't really done anything to it. It's just got all the kind of default global colors and fonts and stuff configured at the moment. Whereas the first site, as you can see, I've installed the ceramics template kit. And this is, of course, using containers. Okay, so this is the main website that we'll be working on today. But we do have the two websites set up. Okay, so we can close that. So how does the copy and paste work? Well, it's really simple. Okay, we can just copy elements just like we are all used to doing in the Elementor editor. Only now we can jump over to another website and paste those elements on a website that has a different domain name, okay? So it all works in a very similar way with just a few differences, which we'll take a look at now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the home page on our main website. And we'll just let this load. And then we've already got the home page open on the second website, which is just set to canvas mode. We don't even have a header and a footer because we don't actually need those for this demonstration. So with the home page loaded on the ceramics site, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom where we have this empty section here. And then on the first website, or sorry, on the second website, try not to get confused, we're just going to add a container, first of all, and then we're going to apply some real simple styles to this container. So we're going to say we'd like it to be in the direction of column, the justify content to center, align items to center. We're going to add just a bit of padding. So 50 pixels of padding on all sides. And then we're going to set a background color. And I'm going to set this background color manually. I'm not going to use global colors. Okay, so I want you to just take note that I have set this background color manually. And now I'm going to drop in just a couple of widgets. So we'll add a heading widget and let's change the text. This is a heading. We'll amend the tag to be a H4. We'll change the color. And again, we're going to move away from the global colors and change it manually like so to white. And I'll do the same for typography. In fact, I'm going to change the font to something just random. This is going to look really odd, but it's just for demonstration purposes. Let's jump in here. Oh. What's happened here? Let's just reset that and then change the font again. Here we go. Let's make the font just a little bit bigger. We're going to transform it to uppercase. Not my favorite font, but yeah, again, just for demonstrations. And now let's add an image widget. And let's choose an image. So we've got these WooCommerce images uploaded on here. We'll just grab this beanie one. I think we can change the size so it doesn't fill up quite so much space. And then let's just add in one more. Let's add in the text editor widget, which we'll set to be centered in the middle. And again, we'll manually adjust the color. We won't use globals and we'll manually adjust the font. Let's just make this font size a bit bigger. We can leave that like that. Okay, so a real simple section built with containers. Okay, and all we're going to do now is we're going to right click those 6 dots. So just like we would if we were going to copy and paste this on the same website, we're going to right click the 6 dots and then we're going to select copy. Okay, and that's all we're going to do. So nothing's changed there so far. Now, on the other website, so we're going to jump to our first website. So a reminder here that we're on live walkthrough site 1, which is a locally hosted website. In this blank area at the bottom here, I'm going to right click and now you see this new option here. So we obviously have our original paste, but now we have this paste from other site option. And this is what we're going to select. So if we choose that, we're then prompted to basically say, are you sure? So this is just confirmation that you do want to paste in that element from the other website. I'm on a Mac right now, so it's asking me to type Command V. If you're on a PC, it will be Control V, not PV. So I'm going to press that. And then if we just give it a couple of seconds, we can see that that entire container, as well as the widgets contained within that container, have all pasted over to our second website. So it really is as simple as that, okay? Now, there are a few rules to go by here when it comes to copying and pasting across websites. First of all, we're running Elementor 3.11 on both of these websites. So moving forward, to use this functionality, you will need to be using Elementor 3.11 or obviously above, depending on when you're watching this video. If you try to paste an element into, say, Elementor 3.10, okay, it's not going to work. All right, you're going to have undesired results. It's just not going to work. Okay. You also need to consider things like if one website has WooCommerce installed and the other website doesn't, and you're trying to copy and paste, say, a WooCommerce related widget, all right, you're also going to get undesired results there. So try to simulate try to replicate the environment as closely as possible. And I'm sure this would be a very valuable tool in your toolkit moving forward. Now, as you notice, we're just going to do just one more quick example of this. In fact, we'll probably do two. We'll do two quick examples. I did set all of these colors manually, okay, and I also did just copy over one container. But we do have the option to copy over a lot more. So if I duplicate this container, and if I change the background color just so it's visually different to this red color, and then if I create another one, and again, change the color to something like this green color, we now have, a few elements on this page. And I know this isn't very aesthetically pleasing, but just bear with me. It's just for demonstration purposes only. Okay, so imagine you've built an entire landing page. Maybe you've built the wireframe for a landing page. Okay, and rather than rebuilding that entire page again, and if you don't want to go through the whole export import template procedure, you can simply just scroll down to the bottom of the page, right click in this empty area. And here, rather than just it saying copy, we have this copy all content option. So if we select that and then jump over to our first website and then right click and paste from other site, Command and V to confirm, it will paste in all of those elements. Okay, so this could definitely be a very, very valuable tool in just speeding up efficiency and workflow when it comes to building things like landing pages or anything really. There's no limitations to this. So just go crazy with it, guys. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun and save a lot of time. So before we move on, I'm just going to remove these. I just want to talk about global colors and fonts. I'm just going to update this page because we did set all of the global colors and fonts manually, but what happens when they're set globally? Okay, so I'm going to jump into the global styles page, which is such a great addition to our kits now. If you haven't spotted this already, it's a really great visual overview, okay, of what the system colors are, the custom colors, the global fonts, the custom fonts, and even things like buttons and stuff like that. So this is a page that's included. I'm just going to scroll to the top here. Now, obviously, because we've installed a kit, all of this is configured for us, and that's what we're seeing here. If we were to change the primary color to red in site settings, so over here, I'm not going to open this, but if I was to go into site settings and amend that to say red, this square here would update, and so would anything on the website that's using that primary global color. So on our second website, let's drop in a heading like this. And as you can see, okay, it's just using the default Elementor font, which is Roboto, and the default Elementor color of this light blue color, okay? Because if we select it and then go to style, we can see that the text color is populated to primary, and so is typography. So when we copy this header and paste it into our other website, you can see that we don't see the blue and we don't see Roboto, but what we do see is the primary color, which is this dark kind of gray to black color. And then obviously the global font is also set to primary as well. So you can really make good use of that if you've taken the time to set up your global fonts and colors. Maybe you're using a kit and it's all done for you, which is even better. So yeah, there we go. So hopefully some useful examples there with the copy and paste. Do add your questions to the chat. As I mentioned already, my colleague Celine and I believe Aviva's around as well, and Angel. So there's lots of these guys in the chat who are ready to answer your questions. Or if you just want to say hello, just jump in and say hi. It's great to see you all. So there we are. That's the copy and paste. So what we're going to move on to next is the loop carousel. And as I mentioned already, we're going to provide two examples here. Now, this is a shop-based website, so both my examples are going to be orientated around the shop. but this can obviously be applied to posts as well. So all of the same principles apply. You just need to change the source depending on what you're trying to populate. So let's show you on the front end what I want to do first of all. So here we are on the home page. And if we scroll down and we want to get onto one of the product pages, so let's open this vase product, or vase, depending on where you're from. And if we scroll down, we can see this related products section. Now, this has been built using the related products widget, okay, which is a great widget. It's very helpful. But I felt that this could definitely be improved with the new loop carousel. So at the moment, we're displaying 3 products, and we could, of course, display more products, okay? But if we wanted to display 4 products or 5, we would need to drop to a new row, okay? If we wanted to maintain this ratio of the image sizes. And it's not going to be the most kind of pleasing to the eye. It's going to make the page longer. But what we could do is we could turn this into a carousel. So it could look exactly like this, but we could just make it a carousel. And then that way we can display as many as many products as we would like, and it will just be in a much more user-friendly way for the visitor to navigate. Okay, so back into the dashboard, I'm going to go to the templates area, and I'm going to open up my single product template in the Elementor editor. I'm just going to let this load. And here we are in our single product template. If I scroll to the bottom, we see the related product widget that I just mentioned. Okay, so it's all been configured to display related products, okay, to whatever is shown above here. In this instance, it's the soup bowl. So let's rebuild this, but let's do it differently. Okay, so the related product widget does come with a title, which is built into it effectively. So we do need to replicate that. So let's just get that out of the way first of all by dropping in a heading. We probably want to configure that to be a H3, and let's just change the text to related products. There we go. Step 1 complete. Okay, so with the title in there now, the next thing to do is to add in the loop carousel. So I'm going to search for loop, and we see, of course, the newish, I should say, loop grid widget, but we also now see the loop carousel widget. So this is what we're going to drop in here underneath our heading. And yeah, if you've played around with the loop grid widget, this will be very familiar to you. Okay, this view here, but just in case you haven't, I'll go through it all for you now. So what we see here is just a kind of sample grid, okay, just the default 3-column layout. The first section here is where it prompts us to create our template. We can also select a template if we've already created one, okay? We don't have to create the template from here. We can select one that we've already done. And in my second example today, that's what I'm going to do. But for this first one, we're going to do everything here. And this is a great way to go about it because it enables us to stay within our page. So we can see what our carousel, our loop is going to look like, okay? Rather than just being in a blank template page. This is going to give us an instant overview of what this is going to look like. Okay, so there's a few steps we need to go through first. All right, as I already mentioned, we're just going to work on shop related things. So the first thing we must do is change the template type over on the left here to products. Okay, so by default it will be set to posts, but we need to change that to products. Okay, very important. Step number 1. Step number 2, okay, if we do have a template, we can choose it here from this drop down, but we don't, so we're going to click the Create Template button. And when we do that, we're prompted to save our progress so far, okay? So it's going to save anything that we've done on our single product template to date, okay? And then it's going to refresh, okay, and then show us this area here. So we can still see our single product template. If I scroll up, I can still see all of this. If I scroll down, I can still see all of this. But in the middle here, we now have a section to create our loop. Okay, so first things first, we need a container because we need obviously something for all of our items to sit within. So let's click the plus icon. All of our items are going to be stacked on top of one another. So the ideal layout here is column. So that's what we'll choose. We can leave most of these as they are. We're going to, we'll come back to this panel, I think, at the end, but for now, that's absolutely fine. We can start to add our widgets in. So let's just scroll down slightly and see what we need. So obviously we need a product image, and we're going to do that with the featured image widget. So if I click the widgets panel, and then the first widget we see is the featured image. And because we selected product, okay, as our source, Elementor knows to show us all of the product related widgets first, which is extremely helpful. So we can just grab the featured image and then drop it into our empty container. So this will automatically populate the most recently added product, which I believe is this soup bowl. But if you feel the need to change this product, there might be a very specific reason why you need to see a certain product in this design, in this kind of creation phase. You can change that, and you can do that by selecting settings in the bottom left corner here. And then under preview settings, okay, we can choose different products. So you can see that soup bowl is selected, but if I click the drop down and just type a few letters, a few relevant letters, hold on, so we say cup, it will bring up all of the products that have the word cup in them. So I could change this to coffee cups, small cups, tea cups. Okay, I'm actually going to leave that as it is for the soup bowl because that works absolutely fine for us. But back to the featured image, let's just configure some of this. So image size, this doesn't really need to be 1024 pixels wide because it's never going to get that wide. Okay, so let's optimize this as much as possible. I think we'll set it to medium large, okay, which is going to allow us to not lose any quality to that image, but it's going to load a lot quicker for us. So that's step number one. We could add a link to this image if we wanted to, so we could link the image directly to the product. And then in the style tab, let's just configure some settings here. Now remember, everything we do here is going to apply to everything in this carousel. Okay, so whilst we only see one item right now, all of these settings only have to be set once, and then it will be applied to everything else in that carousel. So we'll set the image width to 100%, and I'm actually going to set a very specific 400 pixel height, okay? And I'm going to tell this to cover so that the image isn't skewed. And so all of my images will be 400 pixels wide, and they will fill any of the available width. We'll leave that as it is for now. So that's the image complete. So let's scroll back down, and we now need the product title. So scrolling back up to the widgets panel, let's drop in the product title. And this will just dynamically pull in the name soup bowl, which is great. It's a little bit big. We also don't really want it to be a H1. So let's drop that down to say a H3. And then in the style tab, we can amend the typography to be, we need it to be a small title so that it matches the size of the related products down here. And then next we need the product price. So let's drop that in like so. The color is not quite right, so let's change it to accent. And the font as well is not quite right. I believe it needs to be text capitalized to match these. This is tricky because these are sale ones, but this one here, yeah, that looks great. And then last but not least, we need the add to cart button. So we'll drop that in underneath the price. Now, by default, we do see the quantity arrows and number here. We're going to remove that. So under quantity, we can say hide. And then we just need to style that button to look like this link just down here. So we do have accent underlined from our global style, from our global typography. We are going to remove the padding because we want it to sit flush against the side there. And then we just need to amend the colors. So we'll set the text to primary, the background to transparent, and then on hover, we want it to be accent. There we go. That's pretty close. The only thing I think we need to adjust is the spacing between the elements themselves. So if I select the container now, by default, it's set to 20 pixels. I believe 10 pixels is probably going to be closer to what we need here. That looks pretty good, but maybe just a little bit more space underneath the featured image there. And I've just realized I've completely missed this black line under the image there. The designers are not going to be happy with me. So let's add that in. We've got the image selected. So in the style tab, we can set a border to solid. We can unlink and just apply it to the bottom. I think 2 pixels is around about right for that. And then the color will be primary. And there we go. So that's our loop carousel created. If we now update this, and then if we click this save and back button, check this out. Once it loads, we then get our carousel. And just like that, it's automatically populated the carousel with, at the moment, we are seeing, if I click onto this, and if I just open up the query tab here, we'll come back to this shortly. If I open up the query tab, it is by default showing latest products. So we actually want to change that to related products, okay? And then that way we know that this will show only related products to the specific product that the viewer is taking a look at, okay? So that's awesome. I think we can remove this one now so we don't have duplicate. And let's take a look through the settings. So back into the layout tab, I said we'd come back to this. We have additional options now. We didn't see this area before, but now we have a template selected. We have these options. So generally, in fact, for this particular example, the default settings work really well, but obviously you have full control here to amend this if you would like to. So let's take a look at the number of slides. So it's set to 6. So that's the amount of posts that it will load in the background. We can say how many slides we would like it to display. So if we would like it to be 4, we can change it like so. And then we'll add another one in like this. Let's just knock that back to 3. And then we can even say how many slides we would like it to scroll. So by default, it will scroll 1 at a time. And that's what we're going to leave it at. But as you can see, obviously you can amend that if you so wish. And we also have an equal height option here. This is actually irrelevant for me right now because I set an exact height to the images, and none of the titles or prices fall to 2 lines. So everything here is okay from an equal height perspective, but obviously every scenario is different. So you may find a need to enable or disable that if you so wish. We took a look at the query options, okay, under source. You can change it to anything that you would like it to be. You can even manually select products just to show here if you would like. And then under settings, this gives us a load of options to configure the animation. So we can control the speed, whether the carousel auto plays or not, whether it pauses on hover, pauses on interaction, okay? Take a look at all of these settings, all right, and just play around with them, find what works for you, because there's lots here to really fine tune these carousels to your exact requirements. We then have the navigation options. Okay, these are all switched on by default. So the navigation is actually the arrows that you see on the left and right here. These will leave switched on, but as you can see, you can also change these by uploading a custom SVG, or you can choose an icon from the library if you would like to. And then finally, we have the pagination options. And by default, we see the dots, but we can also change that to fraction and also progress if we would like to. I'm going to switch those off. I just want the arrows on there. I think that works really well for this. So just in the style tab quickly, we have just one option under layout, and that's where we can amend the space between each item. Okay, so by default, it's set to 10. I think to match the previous related products area, it needs to be around about 40 pixels. It was definitely a much bigger gap. And then any navigation or pagination options that we do have enabled will show up here. And because we've only got the arrows switched on, that's all we see. But we can amend the arrow size like so. It's probably a bit too big. Let's just remove that. And we can also amend the colors on normal state, on hover state, as well as say whether we would like them to be on the inside or the outside of the carousel. So that concludes the first demonstration of the loop carousel. I really hope that you were able to take something from that. I'm just going to minimize the panel so you can see this in action. But yeah, I think there's some really great use cases for using this on product pages, on blog posts, custom post types, and anything that requires you to build a loop grid in one way or another. So enabling that carousel option is going to really open up a lot more for you. So we're going to move on to the second example now, where I'm going to build a slightly different type of loop, a slightly different type of loop carousel. And I'm also going to take a look at the new background image sizes that we have available as well. So I'm going to jump out of this template and into the templates section, and let's open up I'm going to open up the product archive. I'm going to do this in a new tab, so command and click. And this is the template that we're going to amend. So this is the template that shows, this is the main shop page. This is what people land on initially. And this hero section, first of all, is great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. However, I feel that this has potential to really upsell some featured products. And I've enabled a few, I'm just going to refresh this page. I've enabled a few products in the WooCommerce products area to be featured already. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to replace this hero section with something that matches its size and height, but it will be a carousel. So it will be product that will scroll into another product, and so on. Now we created the previous loop template within this within the single product template that we were in, but this time I'm going to do it separately. I just want to show you both ways, okay? And there's no right or wrong way to do this. It's personal preference, and I just want to show you how that works. So I'm going to click Add New. In the template section, under the type, I'm going to choose loop item. I'm going to choose products under source so that it pulls in the information from our products. And then I'm going to give it a name. So let's call this product hero and then create template. So we'll just give this a couple of seconds to load. Now, the default preview is pretty small, so let's do something about that. So in the settings area down here, okay, I'm going to open up preview settings, and then I'm going to change this to percentage, and I'm going to set it to 100% so that we have a bit more room to play with. And whilst we're in this area, I'm going to change the product as well. So I actually want this to be, this one, ceramic container, and then apply and preview. And we won't see anything because we haven't added anything yet, but in the background, okay, this template is ready to pull in information from that ceramic container product. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an empty container. We're going to set it to column because, again, like before, we would like all of our items to stack on top of one another. So column is the ideal layout for that. We're going to set the height to 90 VH, which will fill 90% of the user's viewport height. And then we're going to justify all the content to the center and then align all of the items to the center as well, because we would like it to show in the middle of that hero section. Cool, so that's created. We're now going to take a look at the background images. So in the style tab, we're going to enable classic, and then we're going to choose an image, okay? So if I select this, and if I choose, let's choose these cups and insert them in, and I'm just going to configure this so that it doesn't repeat. So I'm going to set it to center. I'd like it to scroll. I don't want it to repeat, and I would like it to cover that entire container. Cool. And now we see this. So with a background image selected, we now have this option, which is super cool. Okay, it's called image size. So when you upload an image to WordPress, okay, you have your original image, which is usually pretty big, and then it creates lots of other images for you. And if I click this drop down, we see all of the images that it creates here. And because I have WooCommerce enabled on this site, we see the WooCommerce thumbnails as well. But we see the full one. So this is the original image that you uploaded. So maybe you optimized it before you uploaded it. Maybe you didn't. Okay, there's always going to be, cases for both of these. but we see all of the other options as well. And what we can do now is we can choose what size we would like the website to load per device, okay? And we always had the option before, if I switch to tablet mode, to upload a different image, okay? So I could choose this one for tablet, and if I switch back, you can see that it changes. But now we have this option to choose a specific size. So full might be what you want to show on desktop, okay? That might be the right size for you, or maybe 2048 pixels wide is the right option for you. That's what I'm going to choose here, okay? I think that's plenty big enough for the screens that I'm going to use to test this on. But if I drop to tablet mode now, okay, you'll see that this all gets grayed out, which means we can change it for this device. And if I had additional responsive views enabled, they would all show here as well. Okay, so we could choose a different size for each device. So our tablet, if we look in the top right-hand corner here, is currently 768 pixels wide. The widest it will be is 1024 pixels. Well, it just so happens that one of the sizes is 1024 pixels. So wide, I mean. So this is what we're going to choose for the tablet view. So when somebody views this website on a tablet, this is the image that will be loaded, not the previous one, okay, not the larger one. So what's going to happen? It's going to load faster. And then we're going to do the same for mobile. So let's go, the biggest that mobile gets is 767 pixels. So what can we choose here? Medium large goes up to 768 pixels. So absolutely perfect. So that's what we'll choose for mobile. And that's really where this gets interesting, because you know, a lot of websites are viewed on mobile devices. If they're using their network, maybe their internet connection is a little bit slower. So by loading that smaller image, you are definitely going to improve the loading speed of the website. And background images are renowned for slowing down websites because they tend to always load the largest version, no matter what size the screen is. So we now have these options to counter that, which is a fantastic addition, in my opinion. All right, back to the loop carousel. So we've actually chosen a static image there, which is no good because we need this to be dynamic. So we're going to choose the dynamic tags icon. And now we're going to choose featured image. And this is going to upload the image to the ceramic pots product that I selected earlier. Simple as that. If I now add some overlay like this, we're now ready to add our widgets. So the first widget we need to add is our product title, and everything's going to sit nicely in the middle here because we've already configured that container to do so. We can leave it as, I think we'll set this to a H2. We need to change the font color because we obviously can't see it to white. And then as you can see, it's dynamically pulling in that product title. Let's now add in the price like this. And again, we just need to update the color. And I think the font is a bit too big as well. So that needs to be, what should we set this to? Okay, this is fine. And then finally, we need an add to cart button. Well, I mean, we can add an add to cart button like we did earlier. Okay, we can obviously style that. Or we could just add a button. So that might be helpful in this scenario. Maybe we want to take the person to the actual product page for them to find out a little bit more about it rather than just click add to cart. I mean, everybody's case is going to be different, but you have complete freedom with these loops to build whatever you like. Okay, if you want it to be an add to cart, if you want it to just be a button, whatever you like. And before we style this button, actually, we can do things like we can set this title to have a link. So under the link option in the content tab, we can say post URL, and then when the user clicks onto that, it will take them to the ceramic container product. And then we'll do the same on the button. So we can say that we would like it to go to the product page. And if we change the text to something like find out more, and actually the styles for this button aren't quite right. So let's make good use of the global styles page again. I'm going to open this up in a separate tab. And scroll down. And I'm going to copy the styles from this button, and I'm going to paste them onto this button. There we go, much better. And then find out more. And that is our template complete. Now, remember, we're in a separate template page here, okay? So we're going to save that, and then we're going to jump back into our product archive template. So here we are, I've left it open, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a container above this current hero section. So I'm going to click the plus icon, and then the plus icon again. We're going to add an empty container, which is set to column. We're going to set this to full width, and I want to remove any space. So I'm going to remove the gap between elements. I'm also going to, just for the backup, remove the padding and margin as well. So we have just an empty container at the top here. Now in the widgets panel, let's search for loop again, and we'll drop in that loop carousel. And then we see the screen that we saw earlier. So hopefully we're familiar with this by now. The first thing, okay, remember the most important thing is to choose the source. So we're going to choose products. And this time we can choose a template. We didn't have a template before when we did this, but we do now. So we can choose that template. I've just got to remember what I called it, which was product hero. So start to type, and then you can choose that template. And you know, it does bring in the default settings, which is a 3-column layout. So we can just adjust that like so. So let's say we only want to display one slide. We only want it to scroll once as well. The query, this is super important. Remember, it will always show the latest products, okay, by default. And if that's what you want to show, then great. However, I want to show featured products only. So I've specifically chosen 3 products to show here. So if we're really trying to push the sale of a product, okay, we can add it to an area like this. The settings we can leave as they are. The navigation, I want the arrows there, and the pagination I'm going to remove because I just want the arrows like so. And then in the style tab, we only have one adjustment to make, which is to remove the gap between slides, because if you can watch this closely enough as we slide, there's a white line that appears between each product. So let's set that to 0 so that it seems seamless as that scrolls through. Let's now remove the old hero section and save. And then if we refresh our, oh no, we're not even on the page, so we won't refresh. We'll just load the product, the shop page. We can see our new hero section, which is dynamically pulling in the product image in the background, the product title, the product price, and then obviously the link to the product underneath. And I would probably stylistically play around with this a lot more if I had a bit more time. But hopefully that gives you a good kind of overview on just a couple of options on how to use the loop carousel widget. Okay, so let's jump back into the dashboard. I'm just going to check in with Celine to see if there's any questions before we move on to the advanced pop-up rule. So is cross-domain copy and paste available for sections too? The answer is yes. I can't demo that right now, but the answer is yes. You can also use it on sections as well. So thank you for that question. And again, if you've got any questions about any of these features, please do add them to the chat. I can see, you know, there's quite a few of my colleagues in the chat who are there and all extremely helpful and ready to answer those questions. So the last feature we're going to take a look at is the new advanced pop-up rule. So this one is very exciting and will hopefully save people a lot of time when it comes to scheduling pop-ups for special events, special days, that type of thing. So it just so happens that today is Valentine's Day. So I mean, what a great example for, you know, needing a pop-up for 24 hours only, right? This is, you know, it's fate, I think. So as you can see, I have a draft pop-up called Valentine's Day. So let's open that in the Elementor editor. And this is just a super simple pop-up that I created that prompts the user, okay, to purchase with a 20% discount code. Now, obviously, because it's a Valentine's Day related pop-up, we don't want it showing any other time except today. And if you're not watching this live on Valentine's Day, I apologize, but right now, at the time of recording, okay, it is Valentine's Day. So we now have options, okay, so we don't need to manually log in and turn a pop-up on at 1 minute past midnight, and we don't need to log in and turn it off, you know, the next day. It can all be done automatically for us, which is fantastic. So I'm not going to teach you how to build a pop-up, but what I am going to teach you is how to configure this. So we can configure this in two ways. If you've just created a pop-up, you can click the publish button, okay, or you can click the arrow and you can specifically choose to where you want to go to, whether it's display conditions, triggers, or advanced rules. But I'm going to click publish, and it will by default take you to conditions. And as you can see, I've told this pop-up that I only want it to load on the front page. Whatever your specific requirements are, obviously amend it here, whether you want it to be shown on the entire website or just the shop section of your website, or wherever it might be, okay? But for me, I've said the front page. The triggers, okay, I'm just going to set one trigger here, which is going to be on page load, and I'm going to say I'd like it to be shown within 3 seconds, and then we'll move on from there. And then in the advanced rules area, the bottom here, you can now see we have a schedule, date and time option. And this is the new feature just down here. So let's switch that on and let's see what this can do. So turn it on. So we have 3 options here to configure this rule. The first option is the time zone rule. So by default, it's set to the site's time zone. So whatever time zone you have configured in your WordPress configuration, this will pull in that information. Excuse me. However, we can also say visitor. So it will detect the time zone of the visitor. And this is especially useful for things like Valentine's Day, because obviously the 24 hours that it's Valentine's Day for me in the UK, for example, is going to be slightly different for somebody in a different country in a different time zone. So we have the option there to really, you know, fine tune where we want that time zone to stop, to start and end. So let's leave it on site for now. And then we have a start and an end time and date. So let's click start first of all. I'm going to choose today. And once I've chosen a date, it then gives me the option to choose a time. Now, you could set this to say 12 a.m. Or you could be really specific and say you only want it to go live at 9 a.m. Okay, whatever your requirements are, okay, you can enter the details here. And once you're happy with that, you then need to set the end date and time. So I'm going to say the 15th of February, and I'm going to say 9 o'clock a.m. on the 15th. So there's like a little bit of leeway there if somebody didn't quite catch it in time, okay? But you can be as specific to the minute, you know, as you like here, okay? You can really fine tune that. And that's all there is to it. It's so simple. It's a really easy way to save yourself a lot of time, okay? And obviously, if you have events throughout the year that only run on certain days, weeks, whatever it might be, you could just do them in one block, and then you can almost just forget about them, knowing that they're going to go live and then turn off whenever you're ready for them to. So with all of that configured, I'm going to save and close. And then on the home page, let's just refresh that. And then once this is loaded, we see our pop-up, and there's nothing more to show you here really. The pop-up shows, okay, but at 9 a.m. tomorrow, or at 9:01 tomorrow, okay, if I came onto this website again, this pop-up would stop showing. And there we are. So jumping back to our first slide, today we looked over the copy and paste between websites. We had a look at what's possible, okay, copying containers and also sections, that was a question, from one website to another. We copied entire containers which contain multiple widgets. We also copied individual widgets, okay, which we styled individually, and also styled with global fonts and colors. And we saw what happens when we paste them into a different website. And just to remind you again, you will need to be running on both websites, Elementor 3.11 or higher, depending on when you're watching this video. Obviously 3.11 right now is the most current version. After that, we took a look at the loop carousel. So we had 2 demonstrations today. One which pulled in related products on a product page, and the other where we created a hero section which pulled in WooCommerce products that were deemed to be featured. Okay, and then we also took a look at the new background image size options, where we could individually choose the size per device on what's loaded as the background image. And then finally, we took a look at the advanced pop-up rule. Okay, so I'm just going to check in with Celine quickly, just see if there's any more questions. I think most have been answered. If you copy and paste between URLs, do you have the image installed in the library ahead, or will it bring it in? Okay, that's a great question. And if I jump into the dashboard, so just to confirm that question, because I think I mumbled that slightly, somebody's asked basically if you copy an image widget from one website and then you paste that image widget into the next website, does that image need to be uploaded in the second media library? No, it doesn't. Okay, so if you remember in my demonstration, I had an image widget where I uploaded this beanie image. Okay, I didn't have this uploaded to my media library at the time, but by pasting that image widget into my new website, it automatically uploaded it to the media library. So I hope that answers your question. All right, so just bear with me, guys, while I organize my screens and bring this back. And that concludes the live demonstration of Elementor 3.11. So I really hope you enjoyed the demonstration today. If you're not watching this live, please ask questions still in the chat, okay? We keep an eye on this stuff all the time. We respond to everybody. So whatever questions you have about any of these new features, please add them to the chat below. We're more than happy to help. I will see you next time. We're gonna do lots more of these live walkthroughs. So add your feedback to the comments below as well, and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Take care.